And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning's flying weather showing IFR with the next front out over the Bering Sea, covering the central Aleutians, extending northward here with marginal VFR eastward there to the Pribilof, St. Matthew Island, and still some marginal VFR across St. Lawrence Island to the Bering Strait. Some VFR for the eastern Aleutians, marginal VFR Alaska Peninsula, most of the western part of the state here from Togiak Bay, Dillingham, King Salmon northward to the Brooks Range, VFR. Areas of marginal VFR, but definitely an improvement here, even over the eastern part of the state from today, with marginal VFR conditions down into Prince William Sound. IFR, north slope to the Arctic coast, and IFR and marginal VFR for the Panhandle. Then for the afternoon hours, marginal VFR kind of spreads northward here as IFR retreats back up toward Lynn Canal Glacier Bay over toward Yakutat. VFR showing up down there toward Misty Fjords, and still some marginal VFR, but not too bad over all of interior Alaska south of the Brooks Range, with lingering marginal VFR around Kodiak there. But VFR here, Bristol Bay and westward here to west of Nunivak Island to St. Lawrence Island, all VFR now, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, and IFR pushing slowly eastward here, now in toward the Pribilofs, down at least across Nikolsky, back westward there to Atka Island, but becoming VFR for Adak late in the day tomorrow, and that extends westward, at least to Shimei and Attu. And then for Friday morning, this band of IFR and lower conditions stay south of St. Lawrence Island, and front passes the Pribilof, so some improvement there. And as you can see, really nice conditions out to the west. And IFR, kind of this whole front weakening here, so kind of a diminishing area of IFR spreading eastward there toward the Alaska Peninsula, becoming marginal VFR for the eastern Aleutians. Good VFR interior Alaska, marginal VFR here over the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, actually into the almost to the Yukon River up there, southward into the eastern North Gulf Coast. IFR for the central North Slope and some of the Arctic coast up there. Marginal VFR for the Panhandle. IFR holding there for Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, probably down into the Juneau area, and then back up close to Yakutat. For the afternoon, IFR over toward the eastern border, and then that front pushes inland here and weakens, but still bringing some areas of IFR for the Yukon Delta, down toward the southwest hills there, Auckland, Buckland Mountain areas, and for the Kamishak Bay zone, down to Kodiak. Marginal VFR, and that's about it, with marginal VFR, Southern Cook Inlet, Kachemak Bay on up into Prince William Sound, VFR central interior, areas of marginal VFR for the North Slope and mainly the eastern Arctic coast. Pretty good here over the Bering Sea, mostly VFR for most places. And for passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR tomorrow with possible IFR on the northern approach. And for Adigan, just go IFR, VFR for Lake Clark and Merrill. And for Rainy, looking good, VFR. Windy, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR as the day wears on. And that same trend also for Isabel, starting out marginal, becoming VFR. And then for Mentasta, VFR. Tanita, looking good, VFR in either approach. Portage, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR, probably by midday, if not late morning, through the afternoon. Chilkoot and White holding IFR maybe for another couple of days, possibly. And for freezing levels, still south of the Pribilofs, but as you can see with that next front, warmer air coming northward here, we've got quite a push of warm air coming into the southwest Bering Sea, 4,000 to 6,000 feet there, with the warmest air over the west central Aleutians, sliding eastward, and 2,000 feet here for the southern coast of the Panhandle. Icing, considerable moderate rime icing, central, north coast, over to about Yakutat, northward there to Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay, and another zone here with that front out over the Bering Sea, bringing a bigger area of considerable moderate rime icing here. Again, across St. Matthew Island down to the Pribilofs, and then southward there were kind of diminishes, but still a band down across Atka Island trying to push in toward Nikolsky. And the jet stream here, that band south to north flow here, kind of slowing that eastward progression, but the whole pattern shifting eastward. And then we still got northwest flow, 80 to 105 knots, and even stronger there across Kodiak Island. Then that trough pushing eastward here over the eastern interior down to a low center there in the Gulf of Alaska, and southerly flow up to 90 knots across the southeast coast. And at 9,000 feet, south to north flow here continuing in across the southeast coast up to 65 knots, with light wind flow at this elevation over interior Alaska, and then to the west of the trough, south 55 knots coming over a little ridge here, and then northwest 45 knots across the Alaska Peninsula, and then a broad area of southwest flow 40 to 45 knots over the western Bering and Aleutians. And for 3,000 feet, you can see the wind max ahead of that front kind of weakening through here, but still southwest up to 60 knots south of the eastern Aleutians, light over the interior, light into the Gulf of Alaska, then a narrow band of 55 knot winds coming up along the central and south coast of the southeast coast. Turbulence, look for some considerable moderate turbulence associated with those stronger winds there along the central and south coast of the Panhandle. Light to isolated moderate mechanical turbulence here, Copper River Basin, eastern Alaska Range down in toward Prince William Sound area, and considerable moderate turbulence mainly for St. Matthew Island off to the northwest, as well as the eastern Aleutians.